When this message reaches you, it may feel like something inside you quietly recognizes it, even before you fully understand why. There is someone from your past who once believed they had you figured out. They saw your struggles, your quiet strength, and assumed they understood your limits. What they missed was how much you were still becoming, even in moments when nothing seemed to be changing. Recently, their perception of you has shifted in a way they didn't expect. It wasn't dramatic in a theatrical sense, but more like a steady realization that arrived too late to ignore. They are beginning to see qualities in you they once overlooked: resilience where they saw fragility, clarity where they assumed confusion, and growth where they thought nothing was happening. At one point, they may have believed you would always remain in the same place emotionally or in life. Now, that assumption no longer holds. You have changed in ways that are quiet but significant, and that change has made it impossible for them to view you through the same lens as before. Whether they admit it or not, they are aware that their understanding of you was incomplete. What matters most in this moment is not their reaction, but your continued progress. You are no longer defined by how others misjudged your journey. You are defined by the choices you make now and the direction you continue to move toward, regardless of who is finally paying attention. Focus remains on your growth, your stability, and the path ahead, not the shifting opinions of others that come and go around you now. The realization that changed everything. You were the one they should have never played with, never dismissed, never compared, never doubted. Because while they were busy underestimating you, life was preparing you for a comeback so powerful that even their own shadow refuses to follow them now. The person who once acted like they were above you is now replaying your name, your presence, your silence, again and again. They are piecing together all the moments they thought were small, but now look enormous. And the most shocking part, they realized that you weren't just someone passing through their life, you were the chapter they were never ready for, the energy they couldn't handle, the truth they tried to escape, but ended up colliding with. My beloved child. The moment this person tried to calm themselves down, the truth only grew louder, heavier, impossible to ignore. Their heartbeat changed rhythm, their mind began racing, their breath turned uneven, because now they understood something they never dared to believe. You were the turning point in their life, the one presence that could expose every lie they told themselves. They thought distance would weaken your impact, but instead, it magnified your value. They thought walking away would make them feel powerful, but instead, it made them realize they walked away from the one soul they cannot replace, outrun, or forget. Stay with me, because what happened next is the part that pulls them into a storm of their own making. This person, who once acted cold, silent, or superior, is now scrolling through your memories like someone searching for lost treasure. They're replaying your conversations in their head, remembering your reactions, your softness, your fire, everything they took for granted. That shock they felt earlier, it turned into guilt, then regret, then fear, because they now see the future they could have had with you, slipping like sand through their fingers, and every moment they hesitated, every moment they doubted you, every moment they chose someone else's words over your truth, those choices are haunting them now. Let this sink in, because the biggest twist is not what they realized about you, but what they realized about themselves. They discovered that while they thought they were moving on, their soul was still orbiting around you. They discovered you were the lesson they weren't mature enough to handle. They discovered your silence was more powerful than every argument they started. And now they sit in a room filled with their own confusion, whispering your name like a confession they're too scared to speak out loud. Their world is reshuffling itself, breaking patterns, rewriting chapters, all because the truth finally hit them. You were the blessing they mistook for a temporary moment. My beloved child. The moment they tried to distract themselves, destiny dragged their attention right back to you. No matter where they looked, no matter what they tried to focus on, your energy kept circling around them like a truth refusing to be buried. Their chest felt heavy, their hands felt restless, and for the first time, they understood what it meant to lose something silently, but feel the impact loudly. They aren't just thinking about you. They're feeling the absence of your presence, like a shadow that won't leave them alone. And that's when the realization hit with full force. You were never the weak one. You were the anchor that kept their chaos from exploding. Here's the part they never expected, the truth that shook them so deeply they couldn't sleep last night. They realized that your strength didn't come from loudness, it came from your silence, your patience, your unshakable spirit. They remembered moments when you stood firm even when they were falling apart, times when you chose love while they chose ego, and the ways you listened even when they didn't deserve your attention. And now, as this truth replays in their mind, they're forced to face a reality they were running from. Losing you wasn't just a mistake, it was the moment their life took the wrong turn. And the twist grows deeper, because now they're seeing signs everywhere. Tiny reminders, unexpected coincidences, sudden memories bursting out of nowhere. It feels almost supernatural to them, as if life itself is pointing back at you, showing them what they threw away without understanding its value. They're imagining how different their world would look if they had held on, if they had chosen honesty, if they had matched your loyalty instead of questioning it. And with every thought, every memory, every silent regret, they move closer to one truth they can't escape. You were the turning moment they were destined to recognize too late. After the distance settled, something shifted in the way they remembered you. They tried to carry on as usual, but ordinary moments kept pulling them back to thoughts of what once felt steady and familiar. It wasn't dramatic or sudden, just a quiet awareness that certain connections leave an imprint that time doesn't easily erase. In moments of reflection, they began to notice how small details reminded them of conversations, shared laughter, and unspoken understanding. Rather than forcing meaning, they allowed themselves to feel what surfaced, even when it was uncomfortable or uncertain. With time, they realized the memory of you had become less about presence and more about understanding what had changed within them. They no longer looked for signs outside themselves, but instead examined how their own choices shaped the distance between what was and what is. What once felt like confusion gradually turned into acceptance, not because everything was resolved, but because clarity requires honesty rather than illusion. They stopped assigning hidden meanings to every memory and began to see the experience as part of their own emotional growth. Looking back, they could acknowledge the importance of what was shared without needing to turn it into something mystical or destined. They learned that meaning can exist without certainty, and that closure sometimes comes quietly, rather than in dramatic revelations. Even now, there are moments when a passing thought brings everything back, but it no longer defines their present life. In that quiet space, they choose to move forward with steadiness, carrying the lesson without reopening what has already found its place in the past, within themselves now. And as they feel this truth rising, they're holding on to every sign, every moment, every heartbeat. If this message resonates inside you, let your energy reflect it. Let it reach them. Let it echo. They're watching the world differently now, noticing every shift, every signal, every reminder that keeps pointing back to you. And deep inside, a realization is growing stronger by the second. You were the one their destiny never wanted them to overlook. My beloved child. The moment they thought the intensity would fade, it only grew stronger, so strong that it startled them. They tried to distract themselves. They tried to bury it. They tried to pretend none of this mattered. But the truth kept rising, louder than every excuse they ever made. Their chest tightened, their breath shortened, and a feeling they couldn't name took over. Because deep down, they finally understood what destiny had been trying to show them. Your presence was the one thing that made their life feel aligned, balanced, and meaningful. And now that you're not around, Everything feels slightly out of place. Here's the part that hits them the hardest. The realization they never wanted to face, but can't run from anymore. They see now that your energy was rare, so rare that nothing compares to it. They're noticing how empty conversations feel without your depth, how dull the world looks without your light, how silent the nights are without your presence. They used to think they had options, choices, backups, distractions, but every single path they look at now seems to loop back to you. This isn't obsession, this isn't confusion, this is recognition, a deep, soul-level recognition that you were the one person their spirit wasn't supposed to lose, and the twist unfolds even deeper, because now the universe is showing them the cost of their hesitation. Everywhere they go, they feel echoes of you, your voice, your energy, your warmth. They're realizing how much they depended on your stability, how much they relied on your clarity, how much they grew because of your presence. They can't even explain it to themselves, but the truth is undeniable now. You were the moment their life shifted, the presence that awakened something inside them, the chapter they were never meant to replace. And as this understanding settles into their heart, one thing becomes clear. Their story can't move forward until they face what you truly meant to them. My beloved child. The moment they tried to convince themselves that life would return to normal, destiny shattered that illusion in a single second. A familiar scent, a sudden memory, a random trigger. Something small, yet so powerful that it forced their entire world to pause. Their chest tightened, their hands froze, their eyes widened with that same shock that has been haunting them for days, because suddenly they realized they aren't missing you casually, they're missing you with a depth that terrifies them, the kind of depth that shows up only when someone loses a soul connection they were never prepared to let go of. Watch how the truth unfolds, because now they're seeing everything clearly, almost painfully clearly. They're replaying the last conversation you had, searching for clues in the tone of your voice. They're analyzing your silence like a message coated with meaning. They're remembering the softness you carried, the strength you hid, and the loyalty you offered, without asking for anything in return. And for the first time, they're realizing how badly they misunderstood you. After the distance settled, what remained was a quieter understanding rather than dramatic revelation. It was no longer about grand emotions or overwhelming interpretations, but about the simple recognition that certain people leave a lasting imprint on our sense of stability and memory. What once felt confusing slowly began to make sense in a more grounded way. The absence wasn't a force of destiny or something larger than life, but a natural space that forms when two lives stop aligning in the same direction. In that space, reflection becomes unavoidable. Moments replay with more clarity, not because they are haunting, but because the mind finally has room to process them without distraction. There is a difference between holding on and remembering, and that difference becomes clearer with time. The calm they once represented was real, and so was the turbulence that sometimes followed, but neither defines the full story on its own. Instead, what remains is a balanced awareness that connection can be meaningful without needing to be permanent. As emotions settle, understanding grows, and what once felt heavy becomes easier to carry as part of personal history rather than an unresolved question. With that shift, the story no longer demands answers or reconciliation, only acceptance of what was experienced and how it contributed to personal growth. What felt like loss gradually transforms into understanding, and understanding softens the edges of what once felt sharp. Ultimately, it becomes a reminder that not every meaningful connection is meant to continue indefinitely, yet it still holds value in shaping emotional maturity and perspective over time and reflection growing. It's loud, demanding, undeniable. They finally understand why their heart refuses to settle, why their soul feels incomplete, why their mind keeps circling back to the same image. You, standing in your truth. You, glowing without trying. You, becoming the version of yourself they were never prepared to lose. Pay attention to this moment, because this is where their shock turns into awakening. They're noticing how different you've become. Stronger, calmer, harder to read, harder to reach. And that shift inside you is shaking them. They're realizing you're not waiting anymore. You're not chasing clarity. You're not asking for effort. You're choosing yourself. And nothing scares them more than watching you rise without needing them. This realization has hit them like lightning. While they were busy doubting you, you were becoming the person they always hoped for but never believed they deserved. And now they're terrified that someone else will recognize your worth before they can fix what they broke. And here comes the part destiny saved for now. Because what they feel isn't just regret, it's fear. A deep, gut-level fear that your story with them is slipping out of their hands. They can sense a shift in the universe, a vibration that tells them something is changing around you. They can feel you elevating, healing, unlocking versions of yourself they never experienced. And the more you rise, the more they panic, because they finally see what you were all along, a once-in-a-lifetime connection, a rare soul, a destiny-aligned presence. They always believed they had time, but now they see the truth. Time is running, your energy is evolving, and life is giving them a choice. Face what you truly mean to them, or lose the one story they were meant to carry forever. My beloved child, the moment they felt your energy shifting, something inside them snapped, quietly but powerfully. It wasn't anger, it wasn't jealousy, it was fear mixed with realization, the kind that makes a person sit still and rethink every decision they ever made about you. They sense that you're no longer standing where they left you. You're no longer waiting in the shadows of uncertainty. You're stepping into a version of yourself that feels untouchable, unshakable, unstoppable. And that terrifies them more than anything, because for the first time, they understand that you are rising into a life where they might not be able to follow. Let this sink into your spirit, because while you're evolving, they're unraveling. Their mind keeps racing through memories like pages flipping in a storm, moments when you cared, moments when you showed loyalty, moments when you gave more than they knew how to appreciate. They're realizing you never needed loud promises, you needed presence, you never needed perfect words, you needed honesty. And now, as destiny pulls you forward, they're seeing how every wound, every silence, every lesson, shaped you into someone stronger than the person they once knew. This truth is hitting them so hard that it feels like the universe is forcing them to confront the one thing they never expected. They were wrong about you from the very beginning. And the twist destiny delivers now is the sharpest, because they're starting to understand something deeper, something that shakes their entire soul. You weren't growing to impress them, you were growing to outgrow the pain they caused. They can feel this shift like a storm on the horizon. They know someone new could walk into your life at any moment, someone who sees your worth instantly, someone who doesn't hesitate, someone who recognizes the kind of soul you carry. And that fear, that silent panic inside them, is the clearest sign of their awakening. They finally see the truth they ignored. You were never the one who needed validation. Your presence was the blessing they never learned how to handle. My beloved child, the moment they sensed that destiny was pulling you out of their orbit, their entire inner world trembled. It wasn't a slow realization this time. It was instant, overwhelming, undeniable. A sudden rush of emotion hit them so hard, they had to stop whatever they were doing. Their heart dropped, their mind spun, because for the first time, they understood the depth of the connection they tried to downplay. They finally saw what everyone else always knew. You were the one soul that brought meaning, balance, and direction into their life. And now the fear of losing that forever is eating them alive. Feel this truth deeply, because their awakening isn't gentle, it's brutal. They're replaying memories they once brushed off. Your laughter, your silence, your presence. Even the tiny details they thought never mattered are now hitting them like emotional waves they can't outrun. They're realizing how your energy always grounded them, how your words healed them in ways they never acknowledged, how your loyalty was something they mistook for normal when it was actually rare. Now every absence feels heavier. There is a moment in every story when distance turns into understanding, and what once felt ordinary is seen in a completely new light. Someone who once believed they had a clear read on you is now reconsidering that certainty. They remember your quiet presence, the way you handled challenges without needing recognition, and the way you kept moving even when nothing around you seemed to support that growth. At the time, they may have misread that silence as distance or uncertainty, but now they are beginning to understand it as depth and reflection. What they once took for granted is now something they recognize as steady inner strength. As they observe the path you are on, they are confronted with the realization that you were changing all along, even when it was not visible to them. The qualities they overlooked, patience, resilience, and emotional clarity, now stand out clearly in hindsight. This shift in understanding brings a quiet sense of regret, not dramatic or overwhelming, but thoughtful and lingering. It makes them aware that their perception was incomplete, shaped more by assumption than by truth. Meanwhile, your life continues to expand in directions that no longer depend on their validation or attention. New connections, opportunities, and perspectives naturally align with the person you have become. What they are left with is the awareness that they are no longer part of that evolving picture in the same way they once expected, and that recognition settles in slowly, reshaping how they remember you with more clarity and acceptance over time, rather than immediate reaction or denial. It becomes part of their private reflection about what was missed. They're remembering every moment they dismissed you, every time they misread your intentions, every time they chose pride when they should have chosen truth. And now the universe is making them watch something they never wanted to witness, you rising without them. You stepping into a chapter where your energy is brighter, your boundaries are stronger, and your presence is too valuable to be mishandled again. This is their awakening. But it's also their punishment, seeing the version of you they always wished for, but no longer have access to. And here comes destiny's sharpest and final twist, because now they understand something that will follow them for a lifetime. You weren't just a phase, you were the miracle they failed to hold on to. You weren't just a moment, you were the turning point. You weren't just someone they met. You were the person they were meant to grow with, evolve with, and align with. But life doesn't pause for those who realize too late. Now they're watching you rise into a future they can't enter, a glow they can't dim, a destiny they can't rewrite. The truth hits them with full force. You were the lesson, the blessing, and the destiny they were never prepared for. And now, your story moves forward, while they stand still, forever marked by the moment they finally realized who you truly were, my beloved child. The moment they believed the shock had settled, destiny sent another wave, one so intense it forced them to confront everything they'd been avoiding. It came out of nowhere, a sudden flash of your smile, the sound of your voice echoing in their memory, the warmth of a moment they didn't appreciate when it was theirs. Their entire body reacted, their breath caught, their eyes stung, because this wasn't just memory anymore, it was longing. A longing so deep it hollowed out their chest and made them realize that losing you wasn't just emotional, it was spiritual. It rearranged something inside them in a way they can't reverse. Let the truth rise here, because the universe is opening their eyes wider than ever. They're seeing the old version of themselves, the careless one, the distant one, the confused one, and they hate that person now. They hate the way they treated you with half presence while you gave them full honesty. They hate the moments they laughed off your silence instead of hearing your pain. They hate the ways they failed to choose you when you were choosing them every single time without hesitation. And the more they reflect, the clearer it becomes. They lost the one person who genuinely wanted to understand their soul. That realization alone is enough to shake their entire foundation. But here comes destiny's newest twist. Because now their fear isn't just about losing you, it's about who you're becoming without them. They can see your transformation from afar, and it's blinding. You're calmer, wiser, harder to reach. You're carrying a strength that doesn't shout, it radiates, and that terrifies them because it means you no longer need them to feel whole. Someone new could enter your world at any moment, someone aligned with your growth, someone ready for the depth they once ran from. They can feel the shift. Your spirit is rising, your energy is expanding, your path is leveling up, and as destiny writes your next chapter, they're left standing in the shadow of their own regrets, whispering a truth they should have said when it mattered. You were the one their heart wasn't built to lose, my beloved child. The moment they thought they had finally understood everything, destiny opened a new door, a door that showed them a truth far deeper than anything they were prepared to face. It wasn't a memory this time, it wasn't a flashback, it was a realization so intense that it sent chills running down their spine. They suddenly understood that the connection they shared with you wasn't ordinary, wasn't accidental, wasn't temporary. It was spiritual. It was written long before you even met. And now that you're rising into your higher self, they feel the distance like a blade, sharp, undeniable, impossible to ignore. They're not just missing you, they're feeling the void their own actions created. Let this moment settle into your soul, because the universe is forcing them to face what they refuse to see. They're realizing how deeply you touched their life, how quietly you healed parts of them, how naturally you brought them peace. Even the smallest gestures from you now feel like lifelines they threw away without understanding their worth. Sometimes, when they see someone who resembles you, even slightly in expression or voice, there's a brief pause they can't explain. It's not overwhelming, just a flicker that pulls old memories forward for a moment in passing moments. In those moments, they're reminded of how distinct your presence felt, and how some connections don't easily repeat, without needing to idealize it. With time, they understand that what felt rare wasn't something to recreate, but a unique mix of timing and shared experience in ways that can't be repeated. Meanwhile, your life has continued moving forward in ways they no longer shape or access. You've been evolving, stepping into new spaces, routines, and versions of yourself that no longer circle the past or fully return to. From their point of view, that shift is quiet but clear. You're building something different now. From their view, it brings reflection more than anything else, a recognition that people naturally grow in directions that don't always stay aligned, without forcing meaning onto it in a grounded way. And with that awareness comes a simple realization. Your future is no longer defined by their presence or choices, rather than attachment. What comes next for you will be shaped by who you are becoming, not who you were with them, or the past version of you. In accepting this, they begin to let go of the need to imagine control and instead return to the reality of moving forward separately, without resistance, and with a quieter understanding of what is no longer theirs to hold and the story they once told themselves.